We're with the Tata Sierra today again. Now, you probably saw a really quick short video yesterday on our YouTube channel, but we're with it again today because we're going to have a deeper, closer look inside as well. And we have a very special guest with us today, Martin Uhlarik, who is the head of Tata Design and the man responsible for the car we see here. Martin, thank you for speaking to us and welcome.
Thank you for coming. I'm glad you like the vehicle, and
yeah.
I think we've made a huge impact at the Auto Expo.
Yeah, certainly, absolutely, Martin. Impact is certainly well put, I think, so, and that's the reason why we're starting here at the site, because this is kind of the Sierra's signature, the impact that gives it that Sierra's sort of unique identity. So if you could just talk us through how did you go about achieving this? I know this is a plastic finish, so if you can just let us know how did you all do that?
So as we said, the Sierra is a very iconic vehicle, and the signature is in effect this wrapper over glass on the original car. At the same time, we're not designing a retro design, but at the it has to match somehow iconically what the original one was. So this B-pillar, this body color B-pillar, is the one that really emphasizes that wrap over glass. But you can see that because we have a seal here, the rear window is a drop glass for the rear passengers, but the cant rail here is actually a finisher, a black plastic finisher, and then you have a panorama sunroof. So by doing this graphically, we're achieving that wrap over. But this B-pillar is really where the identity of the car is created. So anybody who sees the vehicle doesn't have to see it's a Tata, doesn't have to see it's a Sierra. As soon as they see this on the side from the road, they will know it's a Sierra. So you don't have to actually even write the name.
Yeah, although that does look quite neat in there, discreet.
It's a nice finisher for sure.
And Martin, the B-pillar itself, I think the width, I think that's something that also was very intentional, or is it structural?
Yes, it is very intentional. It's purely driven by the overall graphics and the proportions of the vehicle. The rear glass actually is behind it. And what it does is it doesn't obstruct in terms of visibility or anything like that, but it's a key asset. We've had a number of discussions in terms of how wide it should be, but fundamentally this is the right proportion in the balance of the car design.
Right, and Martin, also now we saw at your last showing the earlier Sierra concept.
That's right.
This is also a concept from the wording, but
it's actually, I call it a show car, because a show car is in a sense a production preview. So we've announced that we're going to launch this car in 2025, and we've frozen the design already in the studio, and we've just had a design review with the production vehicle a couple of days ago, and it is this vehicle. Now the design team is just working with the quality department in terms of getting all of the surfacing and all of the fit and finish to this level for production.
Okay, so what we see here is what we'll get?
Exactly.
Awesome. Martin, so I think we'll move over to the front as well. There's a lot to talk about. I could spend maybe longer on the side, but at the front, this car that we see here is the EV, the Sierra EV, right? So we will have a different treatment, I suppose, for different versions. If you could just talk us through what's going on.
So what we're seeing here is the EV version. In the past, we would launch the ICE version, and then we would do the EV afterwards. Well, you can see that the momentum has changed in the market, and EV is now the lead product, just like we did with the Curve. And so this design is the EV front end, and of course we have an ICE front end, which obviously needs more cooling, so it's a little bit different graphically, and it'll be easy to identify which one is the ICE, which one is the EV. It's important to have that distinction in terms of powertrain and also character. But for instance, the wide DRL light on the top will be the common between the two, and the same with the positions of the lamps, and also our badge, which has been refined. You can see it's a much flatter badge. It's also now package protected for the radar inside the badge, because usually now the radars have been sort of like, I would not say an afterthought, but as that technology is introduced, the vehicle design is almost catching up to it. So this is now integrating that into the badge, and also it's package protected to be illuminated, because we're planning on the badges legislatively to be illuminated from about 2024-5 onwards.
Oh, okay, that's fantastic to hear. I mean, honestly, I know you said you won't call it an afterthought, but I do think of it as an afterthought because it does kind of spoil the aesthetic, the neat and clean.
It's like the parking sensors and all of these things, and then it becomes these things that just sort of overall disrupt the overall cleanliness of the design.
Speaking of the front again, Martin, on this car. Can we open the hood and see what's inside here? Do we have a front trunk in the EV?
Yes, we do. We can't open this bonnet, but at the same time, yes, there is a small storage space planned, for utility, because it's a lot of space and everything is about customer use. So if it's ability to use it, we will.
Awesome, great. Thanks, Martin. So that's about the front. We'll move over to the rear. There's a lot to talk about at the back too. Martin, at the rear, from here, the 3/4, this is one element that I really liked because you have the chunky B-pillar there and you've got this chunky kind of treatment up here as well, flowing into this. What was this all about?
Well, it started with actually the key sketch. When it was selected, we had a number of proposals, because when we did the design in 2020, that was ultimately a proof of concept car. It was the question we asked at the Auto Expo: is there an appetite for the Sierra to be back? But then over the last 3 years, as we've been developing it, the first thing you'll notice is the overall proportions of the car are quite different from the 2020 vehicle. That one was much taller and had a shorter wheelbase. But because we decided that this is now EV, the whole landscape changed in terms of EV. So EV forced us to make a longer wheelbase, which actually I think makes a much more mature proportion. And then we asked the design studios, all three of them, one in India, one in Italy, and one in the UK, to make proposals on this new package. And the one proposal that was selected for the exterior had this floating spoiler. So, traditionally, you saw in 2020 the B-pillar was connected with the body side, but we thought that this was actually quite modern. It still had that wrap-over glass Sierra signature, but it created a very wide vehicle. So by having this all in black and making it really wide, and you can see we now have this clamshell rear tailgate. So traditionally a split line would be somewhere around here. Yeah. But what we've done is we've moved the split line outboard, and we have this very wide tailgate, which means the lights are not interrupted with a split line or anything like that, and it just makes the illusion that this is a very large scale car. I mean, people think that this is a much larger car than it is when they see it, but it's actually still 4.3 meter vehicle, but it looks like a 4.5.
No, you're right. I think I thought it was a 4.5. In fact, honestly, when you all said you all lengthened it. And I have to say now, talking to you, I've also realized a few other bits, like the wrap around here, wrap around there, does give it the...
Like, the quarter glass, traditionally you would have a split line here and you have a kind of plastic finisher. But this is now actually the glass going all the way to the rear. And again, it's just reducing lines, reducing noise, just like we talked about those sensors on the bumper or the radar. Everywhere it's an act of, minimizing, elements, and that just focuses on the nice proportions and the overall simplicity of the design.
So, Martin, speaking about simplicity, in fact, the rear, I think, really emphasizes and makes this stand out a lot. That's one thing I noticed yesterday. It's also, in terms of a design language, quite different from, let's say, the Tata Curve, which has a sort of sharp elements. Yes. So what's the future like for Tata in terms of design languages?
Well, you can see, I think, if you look at the sort of evolution of the species, if you see the side profile, the reality is of the vehicles, the Curve is now the oldest of these three vehicles, if I include the Avinia, that are here on the stand. So the Curve, which is just here behind us, it has a few lines, but the lines are very sharp, creased, and all that. Then we did the Avinia, which was very pure, and that's now influencing the design language in the studio. So we do have some line. Whenever we have a line on a vehicle now, it's extremely sharp, like on the Curve, but at the same time, we are really going to a very clean surfacing, and also that is being influenced by aerodynamics as much as anything. Because these are EV vehicles, there is a real appetite for efficiency. And of course, that's driving this sort of simplicity, very slippery cars, but at the same time, not without any identity. So, there are some lines on the vehicle and graphics which are very distinct, but at the same time, it's a much cleaner design.
Awesome. No, it's...
We went through that same process on the Curve. We did have more lines on the body side, Then we went through an act at the very last minute of actually eliminating all of them on the body side and just creating that very simple door.
Okay, awesome, awesome. No, I have to say, personally, I love it, And which brings me now to the next request that I have. Can we hop inside and take a look as well?
Let's go inside.
Awesome. So right, we are inside the Sierra EV, and well, the first thing is the space that really impressed me. I'm about 5'8", and I can really stretch out, and I think Martin here is taller. So Martin, how tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
Okay, 6'2". So yeah, as you can see, there's plenty of room. Martin, how did you all achieve this?
Well, what we did was obviously we showed in the concept in 2020 a lounge variant, and that was influenced by overall trends, and we wanted to make less of an automotive interior, more of a living room. But then we said, how do we do that in production? So this is a 4-seater. We're showing it in lounge mode, which will be offered for the public. There will also be a more conventional 5-seater with a more conventional bench in the back. But you can see we can recline this seat. There's actually a footrest here.
Like the Ottoman style.
And overall, you would not believe that we're sitting in a 4.3 meter vehicle here.
True. No, absolutely. And that's great to hear. So there will be the lounge version that's also offered on sale at the time of launch.
Yes, those are the 2 layout specs, and this is one of them.
Oh, fantastic.
In effect, this is the business class version.
Right, well put and well said, yeah, including the Ottoman seats. The other bits on the insides now, I've noticed there's a lot of things that look production ready, some things that maybe not, like the plants, of course, that you have there.
No, actually what we're doing is we're planning on having this vase type element in the armrest, and it's a accessory. So ultimately, if the customer wants it, they can have it, and if they want to use it, they can use it. It just brings that element of what I was mentioning when we did the 2020 concept of making it more like your home. It's a space you want to spend time in, and if you want to customize it, I mean, we still have the moss on the instrument panel like we did have in the concept, and again, it's an accessory that you can personalize in your own way. Ultimately, if you don't want to have a plant in there, you can use it as a storage space.
Right, absolutely. No, it looks really nice, and I've noticed there's something blinking here at me, and Martin, I don't know what that is. So
yeah, so ultimately what we're planning on doing is the seats for the lounge version will be able to house your screen in terms of an iPad. So there will be the charging and a storage space, and that will show you the Bluetooth and also the ability to view whatever entertainment or infotainment. When we do the lounge, we're now developing, there will be a fold-out table, there will be an armrest, there will be a charging area for your telephone. This is a working environment. Many of these vehicles will be chauffeured, and you can imagine, the customer sitting here in the back, getting shuttled from point A to point B, but also potentially also doing work, going to the office and things like that. So all of that usability has to be considered when we're designing it. Same with the lamp, which was actually a touchstone of the concept, but now again it's an accessory that will mount on the pillar, and again, it's, if you want it, you can have it, and again, it creates a unique ambience, but also potentially if you're working, it's a good way to illuminate.
Right, I was going to ask, honestly, that's a surprise because I thought this was only show car because of maybe safety concerns or something, but you can productionize this?
That's right, we were already working on that, and again, it'll be modular in the sense that you can have it or you don't want it. It's an accessory that the customer will be able to choose.
Fantastic. And Martin, now speaking of chauffeur-driven, there will be chauffeur-driven customers, like you said, yes, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who will drive as well. Yes. Can we pop into the front for a quick view there? So we are seated, Martin is seated at the front. There's only one driver's seat. And for now, we're not driving it, unfortunately. As you heard earlier, it's coming 2025. But Martin, why don't you show us around the front and some of the highlights here for the drivers?
All right, so you can see, we still influenced very much by the concept. We have a very horizontal instrument panel, very minimalistic. We tried to get all the volume away. What we've done is we have a lot of fabric and materials here on the interior, which make it a lot warmer as a vehicle. But as you can see, it's also very high tech. We have our corporate steering wheel now, which we're introducing across all of our products, where the badge is illuminated. We also have all of the switch gear is now flush, so there's no mechanical switches. And we have here a 12-inch screen, which is cantilevered off the main instruments. We're also going to be having a HUD unit on the vehicle for production on the top. And the screen size depends on what the customer will configure. We'll be offering 3 screen sizes. You can see we still have the moss as an accessory area. So if the customer wants to customize their vehicle, we'll be offering, various opportunities and various materials that you can put in that. The other thing which I think is, key is the sound bar. We've put the speaker on the instrument panel. When we were talking about the Sierra, the people who were children when the original Sierra was out were sitting in the rear. Now they are sitting in the front, and their children are sitting in the back. In many ways, this is a 3-generation vehicle in the sense that it's multi-generational. We called this car inside the studio Project XYZ because it was Generation X, Generation Y, and Generation Z focused. And when you think about it, when you're at home or when you're with your friends or your family, music is a great unifier. So the audio system being the focal point, that is the unifier of getting everybody to have that collective experience. The philosophy behind a Sierra is really everybody coming together and enjoying the trip. So just like we said, you were mentioning you were in the rear when you were
Absolutely, Martin. That was me. My aunt had a Sierra. I was seated at the rear. Of course, we did sneak a drive or two now and then.
But, yeah. So I expect, if I'm the driver here, I'm going to have my kids overriding my Spotify account and playing their tunes. But that's the whole experience of what the Sierra is all about. It's about a collective experience, and like I said, when we were developing, it was Project XYZ.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Martin, for your time. It's been really insightful, really a lot of information as well. So thank you, and I guess 2025, for me at least, can't come soon enough. So
the
thanks.
Next time we meet, we'll meet and we'll drive somewhere in this.
Awesome. It's set then.
Okay,
it's set.
Perfect.
So stay tuned to the Autocar channel, folks. As you heard, 2025 is when we can get our hands on this vehicle. Of course, while you're there, do check out our Auto Expo playlist for all of the stars from this show.